Alright. Just give it a moment to boot up. Come on, let me get the link so I can put it in the Discord. That we are live. Wow, okay. Got it. Performance mode. Okay. Next day of this ongoing challenge. I think most of my stomach problems are done from yesterday, so better than nothing. Hello, JJ Robotnik. 29, hardcore. Let's see the world. So, falling into lava seems to be a major problem in the Nether. Like, I think that's killed me about, like, 1 in 3 times total. I don't really have a good solution for it. I know I could obviously always just, like, play more careful. That's, like, the given solution to almost any situation like this. But, you know, there's limits to things. But whatever. There's a limit to how much power I have over it. We just gotta keep trying until I don't goof up and fall into the lava. I don't have much else to say. This challenge is on my mind. I have a limited time crunch before Hytale releases to complete this challenge, so this is going to be taking up some of my time. It's also not that hard to do these live streams, so it's a kind of easy way to keep some activity on the channel while I wait for Hytale's release and kind of stall to make more video stuff. Come on, almost down. Good news is, I think we got all the wood we need for this entire run. From just getting down from that tree. Okay. Boop, boop, boop. Boop, boop. Okay. And there we go. Doesn't look like we have many people in chat today. That's completely fine. This is one of those series slash like challenge ideas. It's almost more for me. Like this is just something I've always wanted to do. Hello, Grasscorp. And if I ever do finish it, that's it. Kind of like there's not, you know, like this is content on some level, you know, but I don't like that phrase in this kind of particular context. This is primarily just a thing I want to do. So, yeah, I'm starting a lot earlier today. And it's because I have to go to bed a smidge earlier today, so I'm trying to get this out of the way earlier. Okay. Well, the jungle biome's cool at all. Don't get me wrong. It's an interesting biome. It's got plenty of, like, wood and resources. It's not unplayable. My biggest problem with the jungle biome is, whatchamacallit? I feel like there's not enough food or, like, other resources other than wood and caves. Which I know those are like the backbone of your basic Minecraft session. But like food is also such a core like backbone piece. Like I can't even fight that cave because I have no food source here. Iron. Like this is all well and good, but I can't do anything with this. Any predictions for movie 3? I mean, aside from obvious stuff like Springtrap will be in it, and it will probably adapt Fazbear's Fright, or not even probably. It's pretty much confirmed it will adapt Fazbear's Fright at this point. So, yeah. I guess. I mean, we still have the baby thing to resolve. She appeared and kind of did nothing, so we'll have to see where that goes. Oh, we got salmon. Okay, we have a food source. That pretty much corrects my concerns about this run. Do we have it drowned already? It's daytime. I thought they... Maybe it's dark enough for them to spawn? I don't know. Henry tape, yeah, so we're gonna have more Henry to resolve too. So we have, like, Baby and Henry to resolve on top of Springtrap. I wouldn't be surprised if it's kind of just resolving those 3 things. I feel like movie 2 was kind of written and almost presented as, like, a part 1 in a way. Did I eat all the salmon in existence? Where are they? Molten MCI is possible, but I don't know if it makes sense. It seems like the missing kids moved on at the end of the first movie. I don't even remember how I use Nautilus Shell. I know they added, like, Nautili to the game. But I don't really know how it comes into effect for my purposes. Oh yeah, and then we have Vanessa as the puppet to... resolve. So, there's that. Okay, now there's stuff here. Now we're starting to get things I can actually do in this video game. Where things are meant to happen. Kind of warm up into more to talk about as the stream goes on. I'm kind of in that, like, early stream state where it's like there's not enough topics for my brain to really get going. I'm also not doing very repetitive tasks. I'm doing the... I mean, it is repetitive, but it's... You know. I have to, like, manage my oxygen. I have to dive around with weird controls. Okay, so they build a conduit. So, do I have to find, like, a Nautilus itself to ride? Nothing useful hardcore speedrun, okay. Which I guess this is a speedrun in a way. I'm not timing it, but, like... This is a test of how fast I can beat Minecraft Hardcore. Maybe I will put it on the speedrun, like, leaderboard. Later. That's not really what I'm, like, going for. I just want to beat hardcore, and since hardcore is one of those things where you can kind of just lose all your progress so suddenly to something so random, it's like you might as well speedrun it, in my opinion. Rather than on day 100, with your full netherite gear getting knocked into lava and having no way to escape. You know. Especially if your goal is just to beat it. Okay. I know this is never going to happen. Part of me wishes someday that the Aether would be added as an official biome to Minecraft. Like, I feel like it has enough legacy to do that. Like, it's such a historically important Minecraft mod that I feel like it not being an official part of the game is almost a little weird. Or at least not like an official, like, DLC, you know? Like, something you can... Maybe not purchasable, but like a free... I mean, I know that's kind of what a mod is, but I like... you know, just like an official optional thing in the game, you know? I know Ark Survival Evolved's not a great game to base your game design off of necessarily, but like how it does its alternate maps where they kind of completely redefine how you interpret the world and all that. Like I wouldn't mind if it was something like that, where it's like you can choose to make an Aether world. Which would fit like Aether's kind of rationale of progression, where it's almost meant to start over from the beginning rather than be a whatchamacallit, rather than be like an extension of the base game. Nightmare on being interchangeable in recent games. I don't... It's one of many things, and I know it's the boring answer, where I don't really have a good take on it. I think a Nightmare was one of those things they couldn't incorporate well into the game canon because it's kind of too... It comes with weird implications that modern Fazbear Entertainment just knows who Nightmare is. I mean, knowing who Nightmare Fredbear is also weird, but at least Mike drew Nightmare Fredbear in the logbook. So it's like, oh, okay, maybe they have the logbook, and they base Nightmare Fredbear off of that. That kind of gives it an explanation. But Nightmare, it's like, how do you explain that? How do they know about Nightmare? So I kind of wonder if Nightmare On being canonized that way is their way of like, oh, the Nightmare Fredbear or Nightmare On is just the thing that Fazbear Entertainment made up when they wanted a thing to be after Nightmare or Nightmare Fredbear. Like that's how I would argue it works. Like it's or something like that. I could also argue there's a kind of narrative weight to Nightmare On replacing Nightmare, because Nightmare seems to be Shadow Freddy, who is very much a representation in many ways of like the old storyline. You know, it's my personal theory with Shadow Freddy right now, and in turn very much like intertwined with Nightmare, is that it's the kind of agony resulting creature from the fight. Right? That's my current interpretation and rationale of it as a creature. And sorry, I'm a little distracted by the fact I'm nearly dead. And since the Bite Victim storyline seems to be done in all regards, Nightmare not coming back, and in turn Shadow Freddy not coming back, I think is kind of fitting. Like that beat, that moment, that meaning is kind of resolved. So he's done. He's not coming back. However, Nightmare On is kind of like symbolic of this new company's perversion and takeover of the original. If that makes sense. It's their way of kind of having the character without literally dragging Shadow Freddy back into the story. Just like how I feel like Glitch Trap is kind of their way of having a William equivalent initially without literally bringing William Afton back. But I understand that's a bit more controversial of a take. And if you think about, like, Nightmare On, like, what is it? It's the fearful reflection of the puppet. It is a distorted, weird mirror of it. And that's kind of the theme of, like, the new storyline is, like, even M1, for example, maybe the best result of the base Mimic program, aside from maybe the Glamrocks, if they're derived from the Mimic, is still kind of morally gray enough that it will kill. Like, it's kind of an, I guess, anti-villain would be a good term for M1. Like, a villain who is redeemable or modified enough to understand kind of completely where they're coming from in the way that's like, oh, it has enough heroic qualities to not just call them a normal villain. I feel like M1 fits that category. You know. But, there are spiders. There we go. Come on. Nothing? Ugh. Okay. This might kill me. This is going to kill me. I literally can't beat this enemy. Damn. I don't think Lefty... I feel like Lefty's kind of a homage to Shadow Freddy, but I don't really feel like it is, because it's a suit designed by Henry. It's not, like, at all implied that, like, Henry captured Shadow Freddy and made it into a suit to capture Charlie. It's just a thing he made. Yeah, I need to lock in, but that was just bad spawn luck. I didn't find iron. I was kind of running low on, like, hiding space. I guess I could have blocked myself in. But even if I blocked myself in, it would have still been there because it had a helmet, so it wouldn't despawn during the day. So I was kind of dead there no matter what I did. That's fine. I wasn't too into that spawn either. Anyway, this is a much better spawn world already. I'll consider that a warm-up. Oop. Oop. Yeah, we're talking about the Shadow animatronics. I think my complete interpretation right now of the Shadow animatronics is that Shadow Freddy is born from the bite, and RWQ is born from the second set of dead kids, specifically like the Save Them segment. Because we don't see it there, and that's arguably the earliest time we see the Freddy's 2 location. And it would explain why he's based on the FNAF 2 designs of the characters, and would even like, if the idea of, like, agony creatures is that there's something that exists in the sort of eternal image of a specific tragedy or event. Um, or they exist almost like a curse, where it's like it exists until the trauma associated with it is fulfilled or atoned for. Think like Blackbird. It's an extremely aggressive and like almost unstoppable entity until the end of the story, where it's kind of apologized to and atoned for, and then it just kind of stops. Like it was fully willing to just end right there when things were made up for somewhat. And if like 2+4 theory, for example, is correct, that Shadow Freddy is, or not just Shadow Freddy, that the bite victim is freed by the events of, like, either before the events of FNAF 6 or approaching the events of FNAF 6, then that would mean that Shadow Freddy was atoned for if he was tied to the bite, which explains why he kind of just vanishes around the events of FNAF 6 and we haven't seen him later. But because RWQ is just bound to the concept of the desire to save children, the desire to protect them from this incoming man who keeps attacking them and hurting them. Is this lava? It is. This is a great spawn. Holy shit. Like, this is kind of everything I wanted. We got a cave, we got lava. I don't even need to mark down the coordinates because there's nothing here to, like, pass up or miss. Of course, I'm gonna fall into a cave and die to fall damage, something like that, though. Like this ravine. I'm surprised I didn't take damage there. But, you know, if the desire to save the victims of something is always there, that would explain why RWQ has never been freed. Its kind of curse has lasted longer. And while I wouldn't argue like that, for example, I don't think hide and seek RWQ is the same, or the hide and seek Shadow Bonnie is the same as the good old toy Bonnie Shadow that we know. I think that's kind of its own thing. In the FNAF TCG, I called it the agonized shadow form, specifically because I didn't want to imply it was RWQ. Because RWQ doesn't seem to be a literal shadow cutout, it seems to be kind of its own thing. That's what I'm saying, like, RWQ is the permanent chase of saving people, and because I think the idea is RWQ will be freed when there's finally no more tragedies associated with Freddy's. And that's, because of how FNAF is now, it's just going to be stuck here for the long run. If that makes sense. It's a real never-ending story kind of situation where it's like, okay, yeah, we finished one thing, but it's like the story must go on. It must always happen. That's kind of how I view RWQ. Yeah, a prisoner purpose, and I think that explains like its weird, kind of ugly, uncanny traits of it in FNAF 3. It's like it's kind of a good guy, but it's by proxy, you know. It's still a creature of mirrored suffering. It's just for a better purpose than Shadow Freddy is. If I do it like that, that's perfect. Yeah, I think Shadow Freddy, like I said, is tied to the bite, and as long as the bite victim exists, it will exist. That's my interpretation. And since he seems to be freed by the modern storyline, or by the events of the modern storyline, like, that's why he doesn't seem to be around anymore. That's kind of my interpretation. Um, so that's kind of my take on the Shadows. It's not like a complicated story, which is kind of what makes it appeal to me as a premise. Is like, I don't know, it doesn't seem that far fetched to think a story so tied to themes of like grief and loss would have characters who kind of represent that. Uh, I really want. I've had a few short story ideas. Like I've been kind of planning on writing my own kind of Fazbear Fright style collection of things. The problem is they don't really fit into one continuity. Like I tried to think of an overarching story, and while it was possible, I wasn't really ever satisfied with the version of the story I came up with. Like a lot of them just worked better as isolated things. Um, like it would end up. I know it is technically fan fiction, but it ended up that too like fanficky of. I've explained this in a prior video or a prior. I think maybe even last stream that like what makes something feel fan fictiony is how overly tied into things it is. Like it's unnaturally. Like I said, it's like the then 7,000 Shadow Freddies appear to fight Ultra Springtrap, who's a fusion of every incarnation of Springtrap. And it's like, that's what I mean by like fan fictiony. It's like, it's uber fan servicey. It's what fans think they want rather than what's a good story. And a lot of the times when I tried to make them interconnected, it ended up being stuff like Michael was responsible for like almost every good or bad thing in the series. Kind of a, isn't there like a fan movie for Star Wars where it's, or it's a book I think where it's about every plot hole was actually just two random stormtroopers fucking around in the background, or something like that, or two random rebels. I don't remember what their role was, but they were like low-level grunts who the book reveals were responsible for like every plot development in the series. And it was like a joke parody book. It was just about the plot holes and what if it was really all planned. Um, and so that's kind of what I mean, where it's like I didn't want it to be that, and I knew it would be if I tried to force it. Not that story is very funny. It's like a very funny, like the Star Wars background thing. Like that's like a joke about like if everything really was planned out, or if there was like an explanation for every weird little plot hole. Um, I will say one thing that's always bugged me about Minecraft's combat is I always have a very hard time determining what I can even hit or interact with. Um, like the exact hit radius of some mobs. Where? What? Where'd it go? There you are. Like, I didn't know it could hit me from, like, under the block there. Are you kidding me? Well, I'm glad it fell at some point, clearly, because it died too easily. Like, for example, like, the original outline for 3 stories I had written, they all, at some point, cross path with Michael, even just, like, as a cameo. Like, one of them was about one of the engineers at the 87 location of FNAF 2's 87 location. And the idea is he's, like, the main guy that kept telling to put Mangle / the new Foxy back together. And he starts to notice Mangle / like, the new Foxy starts acting weirder and weirder as more parts put into it. And that was kind of playing into the idea of, like, you know, that they use the parts of the old animatronics. Like, it's kind of explaining Remnant in that way, where it's rather than the whole molten metal furnace thing, it's like, no, it's just like reused parts mean more supernatural activities infused bit by bit, and Mangle starts acting out more and more weirdly and unpredictably. And that was kind of the premise of the story. And I made it a little bit into that. I would like to finish that one because I like Mangle. But, like, just randomly, I would want to have, like, if I wanted to, I wrote in that, like, a younger Mike, about, like, 18 years old, visits a place and he kind of walks into the back room to watch... I don't remember what the main character's name was. But to watch him kind of fix and work on the animatronics so he could, like, figure out how to tamper with them. And, like, setting up Fritz Smith as a premise. But like I said, that felt a little... like, it explained everything a little too much in a way. Like, it didn't leave enough to the imagination. And I think part of the reason of that is that, like, this is part of the reason people get upset whenever a character's random chance events in certain stories is changed to be too, like, planned or well predicted. Like, for example, when Dragon Ball Minus, the prequel to Dragon Ball Z, was written, that's the official, like, lore of Bardock. They had some kind of weird lore in how he kind of just guesses Frieza's attacking. And there's also, like, a side adventure where he meets, or this starts entering Dragon Ball Super territory, where they expand upon this a little bit more. But, like, he just meets some other Namekians on a random planet, and, like, uses their Dragon Balls to wish that his kids would grow up strong and all that. And it's like, does that kind of take away from the magic of the low blood warrior working his way up through the ranks and all that? Have you considered making a sword? I will. I get there. I like making an iron sword, though. Because the stone sword doesn't actually have that good of DPS. To my knowledge. And its durability is not great. But yes, I will make an iron sword. Um, the main story I'm actually writing right now for, like, a FNAF related storyline is called Forgotten Family, which was made for the FNAF TCG specifically. The idea is it's kind of set in an alternate universe follow me scenario where Afton does successfully dismantle the 4 base animatronics, but he doesn't successfully dismantle Golden Freddy ever, and he just dies in the back room without becoming Springtrap. Now we don't know in the main continuity if he ever dismantled the Golden Freddy because we're not shown it explicitly. But kind of one of my core premises is like the idea. Once again, it's more important that he dies in the back room without that he dies in the back room without kind of ever accomplishing anything, aside from dismantling the 4 animatronics. And so it kind of creates this timeline rift where the Cassidy's still around to kind of puppy guard Afton's body to never let him be found. So FNAF 3 never happens because the spirits are still kind of there haunting and protecting it. And they won't let anyone interact with it because he doesn't become Springtrap. He doesn't even get into the suit. He's basically just dead, and they're just kind of stuck there waiting. And I even imply with what I've currently written that the Fazbear's Fright crew died on their way to try and pick up everything. So it's just been this one empty building with the shells of the animatronics in it for like decades upon decades. The story follows a girl named Maggie who kind of stumbles into learning about Fazbear history a bit, and gets curious enough to try and check out the building. Because she's a kid, she's given a little bit more leeway by the spirits haunting the place, which allows her to kind of make more progress in helping them move on and all that across the story. Like, after all this time, there's finally someone they'll, like, let help them after all, which is kind of the premise I'm playing with. Like, they've sort of trapped and tormented themselves, waiting for Charlie when, and this is kind of a twist in the story that I'll spoil a little bit because I doubt most people will remember or even go on to read the story. And it's assuming I ever finish it or whatever, and I never get sidetracked. That the whole connection terminated paragraph 4 scheme with Henry went down off screen in the 30-year time gap, but without Afton because he's just dead. And as such, Charlie has been basically obliterated, and the spirits are waiting for Charlie to free them. For Happiest Day to be resolved. So they've just been waiting for Charlie to come back this whole time, and she's never appeared. I could see the Blob being an agony creature. I really want there just to be more statements on what the hell the Blob is in general. We have so little information on it. But to kind of finish up, like, the idea of Forgotten Family in a way is Maggie ends up kind of not truly replacing Charlie, but kind of realizing that they're waiting for someone to fill this role that's never going to be filled. And so she has to kind of step in to help them. Because this is tied into the FNAF TCG, I did introduce a kind of story mechanic. This is a little bit me making stuff up. But I'm like, okay, the animatronics are destroyed, right? This is a core premise that are all completely dismantled. Um, and as such, how can they be a threat? So the two things I came up with, and they'll both be in the story, is that the dismantled parts of the animatronics, since they're never claimed by any intruders, they've been guarded well this whole time, have this kind of lingering, sort of agony-like process. I'll call it agony in the actual cards themselves, but probably not in the story. That kind of create these Shadow Freddy RWQ-like creatures. And since we know RWQ can seemingly kill people, I don't think it's a stretch to assume it could act as a threat in the story. So we get to see a kind of range of creatures like that attacking Maggie. And eventually, I'm split on whether I have Molten Freddy there or not. I intended Molten Freddy to be there as like an idea of it like coming back to the original location or whatever. But I also feel like if it was just wandering around this whole time, by the premise of this story, Henry would have taken care of it. Like, it should have been melted in the FNAF 6 equivalent. So maybe I won't. Because, like I said, it does kind of... It was one of those early ideas I had for the story, but now I'm starting to wonder if it really fits the premise anymore. Saddle's cool. I'll take that. But I really want... What do you guys... You guys got any good trades? Another worker. Any of you have string? Yeah. The kind of idea I was playing with for what are called the shade characters, which I know is a little edgy of a title. I'm not going to pretend it's not. Is that they are kind of a halfway point between the shadow characters and the phantoms. Like, they're specifically kind of inspired by the early fandom kind of takes on the phantoms. Because before we had, like, the true consensus in the community that they were illusions, a common take was that they were the remains of the missing kids using their animatronics to try and attack. But, like, they don't have a body anymore, so all they can do is kind of inflict, I guess, psychic damage, for lack of a better term. So that's kind of the idea I'm playing with here, is that the Shade characters... and they're not called, like, Shade Bonnie, it's Bonnie's Shade. Is how the naming convention works. So that's the kind of idea I was playing with. It's specifically... The naming convention is a reference to Twilight Princess, the hero's Shade. I always liked that title of a character. So I wanted to work with it in the story. And I admit that story is also kind of fanficky. Like, I'm not going to pretend it's not. But, you know, whenever you're writing fanfiction, it's always going to end up a little fanfic. It's always going to end up appealing to the kind of stuff you like. Like, it's hard to write a story you don't like just because it's how a writer would do it. Like, how the official writer would do it. It's like, it is your story at the end of the day. Like, you get a little bit of liberty. Just as long as it isn't too, like, silly and distracting from the quality of the story. I mean, the whole idea of Hero Shade being a prior Link is pretty explicit in my opinion. I don't know if he's specifically the Majora's Mask Link, but I feel like he has to be a prior Link. Doesn't a guidebook, like, state that officially? I feel like something just said that. But that's always been one of my favorite like theories and ideas, and it's kind of thematically appropriate too, which is part of why I picked the name. Like I like the idea of something so long forgotten just barely clinging there because it's stuck trying to be that again. It's like a theme I want to play with in the story, because we will get to see a bit more of the missing kids' personalities. Is that they have like this weird love-hate relationship with the Freddy's gang of characters. Like on one hand, the Freddy's gang are their prison. They're the reason they've been trapped there this whole time. And that sucks. It's like miserable. Like I said, it's a prison. It's where it's the reason they can't move on or be anything more than these like weird characters. But at the same time, they love those characters. That's the reason they're in that predicament in the first place. If they hated the Freddy's characters just outright, they wouldn't be at Freddy's that day. They wouldn't have followed a Freddy's character to the back room. And I want to explore that, like, that kind of dissonance. Where it's like, you can't entirely hate... It's not Freddy Fazbear, the character's fault. He wasn't... Like, the character didn't kill you. It was a man wearing a costume. And on some level, at this point, because they've had so much time, they kind of understand that. And so they have this weird, like... They have this weird dynamic, and I want to explore... Like, one thing I want to mention is that Jeremy got so frustrated from the fact that all the songs were played automatically every day for so many years. About several decades of, like, the original Pizzeria running. That, like, he had no agency over what songs they picked. That one day Bonnie just started actually playing guitar. And he just figured out how to do that, because it's what he really wanted. He just was sick of that music. He wanted to actually play, like... It's kind of the... Which one is it? Dionysus? The being trapped, unable to have the wine that you can see, or not Dionysus. It's the guy in Greek mythology. I think Dionysus is unrelated. Who's his torment in Hades is that he's forced to watch a permanent grove of grapes, like wine grapes and all these beautiful fruits and foods, and he can never have any. They'll always be just out of reach, no matter how far he goes. Like that premise, right? Tantalus, that's what it is. I was confused. Dionysus is the god of wine and all that, whatever. The premise is, like, he was stuck with that feeling. Like, he wanted to play that music. He wanted to have his own songs. He wanted to have originals. Or he just wanted to play new songs. Anything other than the same stupid songs over and over again. So one day he just willed it so that Bonnie could do it again. He could just start playing guitar. And I kind of want to tackle the idea of each missing kid having a kind of moment like that where we learn something about what it was like to be those characters that long. Because I think that's one thing. It's like, it's one thing to learn about the literal backstory of the missing kids, like who they were beforehand, and that's important. I'm not gonna pretend that isn't another part of the story to really consider and put weight on. But also, I kind of want to characterize them as the characters. Like, what is it like to be trapped in a mascot character for so long? Like, that's got to get into your head and, like, affect how you see things in a specific way. As, you know, the story is Five Nights at Freddy's. The story is them trapped in those characters. So we should know about how that, like I said, affected them, how it changed how they perceive things. And one of the hang-ups I would want to have with Gabriel is his fear is that the good parts of Freddy's will be forgotten and only the tragedy will ever be remembered. That all those years he spent watching kids be happy and be freed and all that by Freddy's, like, I want to mention how it's like he saw certain kids who clearly had bad parents, and he wanted to do things. And sometimes he even could, because Freddy can do weird things. He is a supernatural specter in force. But at the same time, like, there was this limiting factor of being trapped on that stage, just forced to kind of watch. And he knows how many kids had a respite from having that location. Having just a place where they could goof off with, like, the characters, and that's kind of what it means to him. And being upset with the idea that's like, what good did come from Freddy's is not going to be there anymore someday. The kind of fear of things not lasting forever in a way. Which I almost want to get into like a slightly Stockholm kind of topic of that, where it's like, being a character so long makes you so attached to them that the idea that they're not going to be there anymore freaks you out and scares you. Like, it's horrible, but it's your home now. It's what you are. There are no monsters. And then I specifically want to, like, also go into the narrative of, like, because it's like 40 years total later, because you're adding the time of Follow Me, you're adding the time of them becoming the characters, and you're adding the time of time after Follow Me, where before Maggie, the main character, has showed up. Certain things about them have changed over time that I would want to explore with their identities. Like, one thing I want to play with, and yeah, the other idea is of them not knowing what happens after they are supposedly freed. Like, they know it's something they want, but they don't understand what it even is at this point. Is there even an identity outside of being Freddy anymore? And what was I gonna say? I want to talk about, like, the idea of, like I said, the emotions of being stuck so long, in particular. I've already mentioned that. But in particular, one thing I want to do is with Susie, like, one of the few things we know about her is that she, in Fazbear Frights and whatchamacallit, and in Fourth Closet, she doesn't even fully process that she's dead. So I'm like, what's the next evolution of that? What's the 30 years have passed version of that? And the version I would with that is, deep down she knows she's dead and all that. I would want to do that, where it's like she knows she's dead at this point, really. It's too, the other kids have had so much time to explain that to her and teach that concept to her that she can't refute it's the truth. But she doesn't want it to be the truth. So she's stuck kind of pretending it isn't. She's still at somewhat of a wants William to come back someday with the puppy. Like her dog. Like the belief that she didn't die that day no matter how much it looks. Like, she's convinced there will someday she will find a way out. And she'll just be able to go back to everything as normal. And it's never going to happen. Like, part of that story is accepting that. If I can fit that into the runtime. But this might become a full short novel, admittedly. Thoughts on the MCI kids' personality? I assume their behaviors as animatronics is kind of tied to how they think or act. Susie is the one we know the most about. She seems to be the least aware of what's really going on. Or at least that seems to be what character we are given for her. she seems to kind of not want to believe what's really going on and all that. So that's kind of Susie's deal. And Jeremy, I assume, would have to be kind of an aggressive character. Bonnie's always depicted as this kind of fast-paced, light on his foot, like, keep going at it kind of character. But he's also kind of, like, not dumb, but, like, that kind of predictable stubborn of just, like, I'll get him one time if I just keep going. And he seems to really like music, because Bonnie's guitar is, like, consistently made a huge point when we are given characterization for Bonnie as a character. So a kind of like musician character has always been in my head for Jeremy. I'm assuming if you're stuck playing a guitarist for 30 years, 50 years, honestly, you would have to develop some attachment to the guitar at some point. That, or you end up viscerally hating it. But considering he always seems to go after his guitar if it's ever damaged or touched, I'd assume he likes that guitar. Like, he seems to be very defensive of it. I don't really need mushrooms, admittedly, but... Is this... This is an interesting experiment. Ah, you don't see that. I'm assuming it's tied to a block radius around them. I'm assuming it's like stuff within their chunk. That would make sense to me from a programming standpoint. And then Freddy, I assume, is maybe one of the two smartest, most deliberate, slowest, most aware of the scenario they're in. Because he always stares at the cameras when usually the other kids can't or don't. So it implies he's like aware of like the animatronic surveillance setup, and that people are always watching him. And implies he's kind of planning around that. He's mainly active when the power goes out. Like I said, it implies to me like intelligence, planning, strategy. You don't do that kind of stuff if you're just kind of a bumbling idiot, you know? And then Foxy / Fritz. He's very aggressive, very fast-paced. I would say, if I were to give characters to each one of them, I would make Fritz the other edge of the coin with Foxy, where it's or Freddy, where it's like, if Gabriel's very slow, cunning, deliberate, like strategical pacing, using the scenario to the best of his advantage, Fritz is, I understand the rules. I think the best way is just to fucking run this guy down. Like, give him so little time to react, he can't do anything. Like, if we can act, let's just do it. No ifs, ands, or buts. That's how I think I would distinguish the two. If they're both smart, they interpret their intelligence and how to use it very differently. Like, their interpretation of the logical conclusion of their scenario is very different. So those are kind of my takes on the missing kids. Um, for more complicated, deeper character stuff that I would just have to write a story to convey it all. Um, like I wouldn't be able to just make fleshed out characters like on the spot mid live stream like this. That's kind of why I'm trying to write it. It helps me like put these characters into thoughts, give them a scenario to really thrive. Which is part of I went with the Forgotten Family setup. Is like I was like, what's a scenario where we get kind of pure attention to the missing kids the whole time to really get into their characters on a deeper level. I'm like, if they're just kind of stuck in a room or an abandoned Freddy's and we just they have nothing to do with other than interact with Maggie, really. After initially trying to attack her because she's an intruder, an invader, and then their kind of fight or flight sets off, and then as she's there longer and gets to know how to avoid them as threats longer, she's able to more and more appeal to them and kind of break down this defensive layer they have up. With the character of Maggie in general, there's this kind of complicated give and take with her character, because she has to start out not boring, but she has to start out as someone who's maybe not unlikable, but not in a good place as a person, really. She's not suicidal. She's too young for that. She's about like 14 or 13. I haven't picked an exact number yet. But she doesn't really have many friends at her school. She's never really figured out how to make friends. She's kind of meant to be not a literal parallel, not in the way of like stitch line parallels, Andrew equals Cassidy theorizing kind of way, but like she's meant to be in a way a second coming of the bite victim. Once again, not literally, she isn't the reincarnation of the bite victim. But like they're meant to be similar people in the world, you know. And so she's kind of a social outcast who kind of just has the world step on her constantly. Well, at this rate, I'll be able to make a portal out on my own terms. Put that away. Words. But, so she has to kind of go from that to someone able to help the missing kids move on over the course of the story. So she has to kind of start out very meek and quiet and kind of pathetic. Like, honestly, Nightwing, kind of. She is very pathetic at the start of the story from what I've written. One of the opening scenes is her getting bullied and then ending up crying in like a gym locker room. Like, she is just such the world's punching bag in so many regards. Oh, dang. So she doesn't get to have a lot. Oh, there we go. A lot of initial character at the start, just from a quirk of how the story is structured and presented. But that's because I kind of want her to develop more personality and identity as the story goes on. Like, she kind of finds herself in who she is as the story unfolds and gets to do more with, like, she gets to kind of find more of her own personality and identity as it goes on. A good writing teacher, he was actually my art teacher, but he had a lot of great ideas about writing. He says, like, a lot of times stories are presented, and writing teachers will say you have to have character development. You have to have the character change or evolve over the story, and while that's often a good way to tell a story, in some cases, just learning more about the character can create for a satisfying narrative. Where it's like we and maybe even the character themselves don't feel like they understand themselves very well early on, and by the end, we have a great understanding of who this person is, and they do on a deeper level than just their surface traits. And that's kind of how I want to handle Maggie, is like, she will have a character arc. She will grow as a person and be much more bold, much more brave, and in many ways more empathetic and a better person than she is. Because I don't think of her as a bad person, but I don't think of her as a kind of dynamic, deep person either. She's, like I said, she is such a bullied victim at her core. And that's kind of taken over her life as the identity of the one being picked on and being bullied. And this gives her a chance to not be that finally. There's something about, like, the idea of when a scenario is so horrible and treacherous that the only way for you to escape it is to be brave and get past these threats. I think that's an interesting way to, like, make a character become more brave and bold. You know, it's like you're forced into action because if you don't, you die. You know. So that's kind of my plan and take for it. Oh, bite victim's absolutely in the story, though I don't think most people will realize it until a certain bit more of information is conveyed than the story starts out with. Because I feel like maybe some people, I don't know. It's not really a reveal, it's more something that I don't think I don't think it's super obvious from the moment the character is introduced that it's the bite victim. In fact, just me saying that he's in the story probably will help people figure it out very quickly. Nothing out of that? Okay. Have this in standby. One thing I want to do, and this is kind of a personal preference for this kind of bullied kid grows up storyline. Okay, damn it. I have an idea here. It's going to take a bit of time to set up. What was I saying? I completely lost track of what I was going to say. I don't really have the timing down on them very well. Come on. God damn it. That's sort of the vision I have for how to deal with these goobers. But it needs more work. Yeah. Oh, okay, now I remember. About, I don't want it just to be like, oh, she's super bold and brave by the end of the story, and her problems are magically fixed because of unrelated events at a haunted pizzeria. Instead, what I want to actually have happen is that she is helped by the events she goes through. Like, the trauma does improve her courage and ability to stand up to stressful and scary situations. But more than that, what it really does is helps her get a better perspective on what's going on and what really matters and doesn't. Like, kind of realizing her bullies are kind of pointless in the long run. It's like, okay, yeah, it sucks that they're picking on me. I don't like that. It makes my life harder. And they're jerks, like, inarguably. But who gives a shit? Like, someday this will all be gone. We'll all grow up. We'll all be out of high school and middle school. Like, I can tough it out. And the kind of analogy there, it's like the missing kids put up with their shit for literal decades, waiting to move on for the ability to change. Like, their problem is that they never got to change. They were stuck in those suits and characters this whole time. It's always that shit. I swear. Are you kidding me? I couldn't even see it. It's like, hey, I have the ability to change. My life can go somewhere. Isn't that kind of, like, amazing, considering that not everyone gets that chance? Like, and kind of learning just, like, maybe not accept things the way she is. Like, she does have to try and solve her bully problem somewhat. Her life does matter in the meantime. It's not like, and all that. But, like, there isn't this pressure that it's the end of the world when she gets pushed over in a locker. Or when someone else makes fun of her or anything like that. Okay, I have the bare minimum. I'm just kind of in the groove of grinding out the blazes. Okay, I'm popping this. I'm getting out of here. Seven. So yeah, I kind of want to cover that sort of energy and perspective on like, you know, kind of the life of a victim and their storyline. Yeah, I think it's just a simple kind of twist on the structure of that kind of narrative in the story. Because, like I said, I feel like often they try to act like the coming-of-age story magically resolves the personal life storyline whenever a character like this goes on a big adventure. And personally, I kind of like when we don't pretend that fighting a dragon or whatever fixes struggling with, like, divorce or whatever the hell the storyline would be about. Whatever your typical, like, YA novel story beat is, you know. Okay, that sucks, but I can handle it. I have food, I have armor. Like, it's just one of those, like, I am now used to the Nether scenario enough that I'm not as upset by the interactions as much. So yeah, that's kind of where my head's at with Forgotten Family. I do hope to be able to, like, tell that story someday. That's cool. My first diamond thing this run. Okay. I almost looked at them. 18 seconds. That's... I'm not going to be stupid about that. Okay, time for the second half of the run. Or not second half, the second major struggle of the Nether. If I've learned anything, it's to be very patient about this particular step. This genuinely has killed me so many times, just not giving the time and attention to the Endermen that they really need. They just shred you as threats. They seem to be some of the most capable of just, like, destroying you out of nowhere kind of threats of the Nether. I think this might be my favorite type of wood in the game. The ender, whatever, the warped stuff. Like, it looks... Like, one of my biggest Minecraft builds I've ever done used this as the aesthetic. But this is a good run. This is a little bit of everything that's kind of needed. So I always kind of feel bad for attacking the Endermen. They don't actually seem particularly, like, evil when they're, like, left on their own. Which is always kind of made, like I said, made me kind of feel empathetic and bad. And the fact that they're just, like, muttering things like, what's up, like... Or... Maybe they don't know what they're saying even, but, like, just those basic phrases they keep repeating. Like, there's something uncanny and kind of sad about it. They've really drifted from their initial Enderman kind of persona. Or the Slenderman inspiration is what I meant. Enderman is what they're known as now. Do we think the Endermen are more iconic than Slender now? I think they'd have to be. They're part of a way more popular franchise. And they're a very iconic part of it. Yeah, well, I don't know the name, because I always think of it as Enderwood or whatever, but it's not. It's Warped Wood. I just know it looks cool, and I like having it. I also, yeah, imagine if you couldn't leave a boat of your own volition, and you were just stuck in it. As this person, like, whips out a sword and, like, cuts into you over and over again. Does Ender mean anything? Or is it just wordplay on Slender? Because I know the end is like it's the final biome, it's the end of reality or whatever the fuck. It's crossed my mind. Yeah, they are such chill enemies. It's like so unfair for them. I almost feel worse than attacking like the animals in game. Because the animals, it's like, okay, they're animals, you know, they don't understand what's going on. There's no sentience behind those eyes. They're silly, like, derpy little goobers. These feel like strange, alien-like beings who are just kind of minding their own business. Like, their weirdness kind of makes them more human in a way. Ever since I learned that that particular sound effect, like the weird kind of growl noise was what's up, it really changed how you look at the enemies. Or at least that the original sound effect they used. Maybe it doesn't mean that in universe, but it's what the sound file's saying. Oh yeah, killing the End Dragon's also fucked up, but it's also called Free the End, so it's implied it's an evil dragon. It's a Lord of the Rings situation. Like, destroying the ring kind of means the end of all magic, and that sucks. But also, having the magic as it is could lead to the desolation and destruction of the world. It's you know, it's a give and take. That's a subtext. I mean, not even subtext. It's just a thing in the book version of Lord of the Rings that's typically that was kind of cut out of the movie version. That like the rings of power are what were kind of helping hold magic together in the world of Middle Earth. And so without it, magic kind of disappears from the world as they know it. So like there's this kind of tragedy of like, if you defeat Sauron, you get no more magic. But he's fucking evil. And so many people are suffering because of that. So it's this kind of bitter tragedy. Like they need to stop him, but it's so hard. It's part of why no one can bring, like, it's part of why the elves struggle with the ring. As we see, what's her face? Towards like the middle of the book, or Fellowship specifically, not the book, but she tries to see if she can survive the temptation of the ring, and she can, but it's also no traditional mortal person can bring, or I mean, the elves are kind of immortal, but you get my point. I mean, they live a long time. They're not truly immortal, but, or maybe, I don't remember actually on that specific part of the lore, but like do I have my heart enough in the right place that I can resist, you know? Okay, 14's basically enough. I'll clear you out because you're right here, and it's... Or not. How the fuck do I get out of here? I might be misremembering the Lord of the Rings lores. Admittedly. I'm not like a lore historian of the series. But that's just how... I just remember seeing something about it. Alright. So let's see. 8. Okay, so we want to get near 0. So this way... Yeah, this way. Well, we're through the first half. A little low on some resources. It's fine. I mean, in theory, we can even do potion crafting this run. Assuming we don't run out of blaze rods. I'll try to find a village, though, before I commit to that. I also will say, while I consider Lord of the Rings a better collective story, I really like The Hobbit for what it is. As a story. Like, I don't know if I prefer it over the collective epic that is Lord of the Rings, but there is something so cozy and appealing about The Hobbit as a book. That is kind of eternally I guess important to me, for lack of a better term. Like, it was a book I was read when I was growing up. And, you know, it's such a chill, like... I mean, not even chill. It has stressful moments, but it's not the really intense kind of epic of The Lord of the Rings. Okay. Yeah, put the leather away. Ignore that. I just wish they didn't try to make the movies a trilogy for The Hobbit. I think it had a lot going for it as an adaptation. I think trying to make it something that kind of... I think they tried to make it too much Lord of the Rings. Like, they tried to... I don't even know if I would call Lord of the Rings lightning in a bottle. But I think they were chasing that audience, and it's an overlapped audience with The Hobbit, but their appeals aren't one-to-one. They're not interchangeable. Like I said, it's not... The fundamental journey isn't quite the same between the two. Like, The Hobbit's more... I think I've heard it described as more... It's more like the story your dad tells of an adventure he went on as a kid. Whereas Lord of the Rings is more fantasy World War II, almost. It's kind of a war story with a fantasy setting and using the logic and rationale of a classic fairy tale-esque world for that kind of real heavy stakes tragedy and stress. And both are very appealing. I like both. But I prefer the book version of the Hobbit over the movie, which tried to make it seem like it was the... I feel like the movie version of the Hobbit tried to make it seem a little bit too much like it was the same kind of epic scale adventure. Yes, Lord of the Rings was written during, I think, Tolkien's service in World War II. So, very, very much was in his head at the time. Consciously or not. I think consciously, on some level. I think he would, from what I know about Tolkien, probably say it's like, oh, it's not just World War II, the fantasy story. He probably would disagree with that part. But, like, it's kind of hard to argue it didn't have an influence on it at the very least. And, like, in a similar vein, like, I think the difference between The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings is very apparent in stuff like Frodo versus Bilbo's characters in many regards. Past it. What direction? Okay, I need to go more that way. Okay, 14. So yeah, this direction is what I want. And also, do I want to be... I want to be a little higher up, too. This is why I grab a lot of iron, typically. Alright. And now... we wait. Should be in just like a straight line from here, basically. I honestly find it funny that a lot of people think of like Lord of the Rings as a very hardcore, like nerdy thing, and I think it probably was for a lot of like its history. But it's like there's a reason it was such a major blockbuster story. You know, like or blockbuster movie, I should say. It's like that didn't happen because the book could only be gotten into by nerds. Like not every single like viewer of that movie was just some like a geek who had never seen a fantasy thing, or who had seen every fantasy thing ever and was a Tolkien fanatic. Crashmaster, a FNAF tuber who plays Minecraft and a Minecraft tuber who plays FNAF. Maybe we will collab. Or maybe... I don't know. I don't know where else to follow with that. Where is the portal? Is it up there? I feel like I remember seeing the Bastion from a similar perspective here. 37... 852... 14? Negative 14. So I'm like spot on. What? Right? Okay, so it's this way. There we go. Netherite plus Remnant. I mean, it is a metal, right? So theoretically, it could be imbued with Remnant. Or become Remnant. If I were to make each animatronic a fantasy class, which one would they be? That's a good question. Let me think on that some. Keep that. Salt. I always want building blocks. Yeah, I can get rid of the mushrooms. I don't think I'm going to do much with that. Dried gas was interesting. I don't think it was really worth it time sink wise. Especially since it's easier than ever to just ride a horse somewhere. Stone sword, I'm not going to need that. Arrows, I always need more arrows. Wow, I didn't even have my furnaces with me. Really good thing I never needed to cook food, but... Bundle, leather, that seems always important. I can take some of this out, though. This random piece of wood, I don't need that. I don't need the warp fungus. Bottle, I actually might need. There's a non-zero chance in that. I don't think I'll need obsidian for this run. Bow, furnace, glowstone. I mean, here, I'll take everything out so I can sort. I don't need this. I don't need the random fire charge, but the eggs might be useful as an emergency projectile. So, bottle. The lava bucket's not really that important now. I might polish off this iron sword by hunting a bunch of salmon. I'm noticing a pattern where some of my best runs have such randomly scuffed details. Like, I never found diamonds this entire run. Can I say, isn't it weird that gold, its decided properties were brittle, which makes sense. Gold is not a durable material. It breaks easily. But incredibly fast, even though it's one of the heaviest materials there is. It's part of why I mentioned, like, in a prior stream of, like, what is speed supposed to be in Minecraft? Like, why does an iron tool handle so much faster, slower than a gold tool, but faster than a stone tool? Is it like build quality, aerodynamics? Like what makes that difference? What makes gold so fast? take this. It's just something to stuff in the bindle. I might collect some resources attributed that could work for enchanting in case I get diamond somewhere. Which is not impossible. Water bucket. Furnaces, which I can put away for now. I got building blocks, I got gravel. Here, let me reorganize this. Lucky gold nugget. And I can drink this water for now because I have the water bucket to get water out of. I mean, I might as well keep the splash potion. Leather, glowstone. It's more just like random materials I can't really use at the moment. And I'm not even gonna try the bed nonsense yet. Okay, let's get some early stuff. Get a sense of direction. That way. I know there's like more advanced tricks to tracking down the stronghold, especially in more modern Minecraft. Or not even more modern Minecraft, just these days in general, like the speedrun community has evolved so much for how to track everything. But if I'm honest, I don't care too much in that specific regard. Let me make this his own stack. Get rid of soul speed, because I'm not going to be able to use soul speed, really. Okay. This has got to break, like, any swing now. I'm kind of shocked that this sword is still hanging on. I'm only not making a new one because of inventory space management. So, this is under 2 hours, and that's not including the first playthrough, which was about, like, 30 minutes long. So, this has only been about an hour and 20 minutes of a playthrough. That's pretty good for a random seed Minecraft run. And we're about to get a horse. Honestly, one of my biggest takeaways from that one playthrough we lost is the insane importance of arrows. Like, they might be the most important resource for an enderman, for a boss, whatchamacallit, a ender dragon fight. So, every chicken I see goes down. So seems like a good one. Come on. Convince your stubbornness is a sign that you're a useful companion. Tsundere prick. Or chicken. Or chickens. Oh, a pink sheep. Well, would you look at that? You're quite the rarity. Okay, still this way. I think that one broke. Okay. I forgot to craft a bed. Well, I did, I just left it behind. Oh, I didn't. It didn't break. Let me go back and... Can't actually carry enough food for that. Boop, boop, boop. Oh, D&D classes. I completely forgot that was a thing that was even being talked about. Foxy Rogue. That's the one that jumps out to me the most. A Bonnie Bard. Chica Cleric. And... Chica Cleric. Freddy... I don't know what Freddy would be. I feel like he... Maybe... I don't know, Sorcerer? I don't know. I don't know what fits Freddy. Paladin, maybe for like the slow, heavy, like important feel. Can I... Hold on. Can I, like, get you in a boat? Uh... Hmm. Well, my friend... Oh, okay, actually, let me double check where I'm going. Yeah, still that direction. Maybe I just go around. Get back here. Still think that's more efficient than... Freddy would also be a bard is the problem, but I feel like... Oh, you know what he would be? He would be Barbarian. He would be a bard, barbarian, multi-class. Specifically. What else? Golden Freddy, I think, would be a sorcerer. Or a warlock. I mean, warlocks have patrons, though. None of the FNAF characters really have patrons. Yeah, I keep meaning to talk about um like Figure the Mimic. I guess I haven't made a video on it, huh? I've been meaning to, but I guess part of the problem I had with Secret of the Mimic was it felt so clear. Um, it felt so clear in a way that I didn't feel the need to really explain everything. If that makes sense. But I should still do a video on it for the sake of it. Okay, so you can't fall in the water. That's your quirk now. I feel like the puppet would be a wizard. I mean, maybe a wizard cleric hybrid. Um, William, I think would fit the warlock vibe. If like Shadow Freddy was like his patron, like a wizard warlock, I think. Like that, a mixture of studying and a mixture of giving to something stronger. Okay, I think we're starting to drift some, so that means we're getting closer. Should be like right around here-ish. The reason I say wizard is I mean, I guess here's the problem. All the magic in FNAF is like innate. We're never told of like a training arc for any animatronic. Like they didn't. There's no manual for them to learn to use their powers that they studied. You know. So that's kind of the caveat with the whole like, oh, I'm just assigning them based on what fits best, I think. And I'm trying not to do repeats because I like I said, a cleric fits kind of both the puppet and Chica. But like I'm trying to think of like the vibe specifically of like what would they be in a D&D campaign. Stitch Wraith would totally be a paladin, I will say. I think it's often overlooked because it's kind of a gangly character design where he's pretty thin as an endoskeleton, but like Stitchy takes several big blows throughout the series. Like he is weirdly tanky, and he functions on a kind of protector of all status working with Andrew. So he has a patron. He might actually genuinely have an arguable patron in the form of Andrew. I know Andrew doesn't give Jake all of his powers. A lot of Jake's powers are his own, but like he fits that like specific context if we're going for a D&D variant of each. Can I say, did it bug anyone else that they made a big deal that Will in Stranger Things, they call him a sorcerer for his ability to interact with the hive mind of whatchamacallit, the Upside Down in Dimension X. But like the explanation of how he does it is he's tapping into the powers Vecna already has. Right? That's the specific condition to why he has abilities. He doesn't have powers like Eleven does. He's kind of piggybacking off the properties Vecna has. So he would be a warlock. He has a patron, like a pact, a thing he's tapping into. A reluctant one. But his powers come from a source that's not himself. And they call him a sorcerer. They specifically correct that, you know, his D&D character is a wizard, but he's more like a sorcerer in real life. And it's like, no. Duffer Brothers. You need to get, like, Matt Mercer on the writing team for Stranger Things. I know it's over now, but he should have been, like, just on staff for, like, what would have been chronologically appropriate and what characters are the best fit. There is a real royal feeling to having a diamond horse and so much equipment that you don't even need to stop and, like, gather some equipment stuff. Um, okay. We're right. Oh. We're right nearby. We're off to see the wizard, the horrible wizard dragon, the I don't know where that bit was going. Gotten pretty good rolls with my Ender Pearl spawns. Rogue Bard for Mimic? I would say yeah. He doesn't really have a patron. He's not, like, intelligent in the studying kind of way. I'd say yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I'll say I'm a mild defender of Stranger Things as an ending and series. I'm not gonna pretend it kept the quality of season 1 the whole way through, but I think I think it's there's just this expectation for the series to be something it probably never could have been. Like, imagine if they did leave it on season 1, where we only have a minor hope that 11 might be alive. I mean, they kind of, from what I know, they kind of did that anyway, but anyway, what am I saying? But, like, for what it is, I appreciate the story. I have learned that sometimes a writer has an idea, and the idea can be very cool, and I've learned to maybe not just accept something for what it is. Okay, this way still. Like, understand the flaws and limitations of what something currently is, but also enjoy the series for what they want it to be and what they want you to feel. Because that's what it is about at the end of the day. It's like, I don't feel like Stranger Things is trying to be a perfect, like, sci-fi, fantasy, paranormal mythos. I think it's trying to be almost like an extended universe 80s movie. In kind of a halfway point between, like, your horror movie in the vein of, like, Nightmare Before Christmas, or not Nightmare Before Christmas, Nightmare on Elm Street, and like your more fantastical, whimsical 80s movie like E.T. Okay, so we're here. I'll fire it off one more time. So it's somewhere in this valley. Yeah, I can understand not liking season 3, but I enjoyed it. I kind of liked having a bit of fun for a season. Because, I don't know. To me, there's some stuff like, if you're, there's the meme of suffering builds character. It's like, sometimes, you have to let a character, like, have fun and enjoy things to add to their weight as a person and their role in this universe. Well, this seems like a perfect opportunity. Just go down here, splunking. So I like that season 3 was a bit more zany and weird, because we had such a serious season 2 and 1. I mean, there's jokes and comedy, don't get me wrong, but it's like we needed just weird, like, Let the world be weird. Let it be silly. Have some fun character moments. I don't think anyone can use Jack Skellington because he's technically a Disney character. Like, he's not like a classic mythos character. He's like a kind of composite take on something. Now I find gold. Like, he's like a representation of like general skeleton-y kind of Halloween mythos characterization. Like, I don't think anyone owns the rights to him. Oh, well, no, correction. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Quite the opposite of what I just said. I don't think you can just, like, make one of those B-list, like, free rights horror movies based on him. Season 3 made you hate Max? I don't understand that take, but I'm not going to fight you on this because this is... Sometimes I've learned that just people online will, like, have a very specific strong take they cannot let go. So I'm not going to try and convince you otherwise or argue otherwise. Like, if you clearly have an opinion, I'm not going to say you are wrong for having it. Are there any diamonds down here while I'm here? Like, I have the stronghold. It's right here. I'm at coordinates where diamonds can spawn. Could I get some generosity? This is a very half-formed temple for stronghold. Let's see, does this... Yeah, like, Jack is a common name for, like, a general, I don't know, archetypal character. Like, we just call a lot of things Jack in general. It's like a... It's similar to John Doe, where it's kind of like a placeholder name, usually. Okay. I'm a little worried with how destroyed this temple is. That the... Okay, there are diamonds. We might actually be able to... Yeah, okay, we can do enchantments this run. And make a diamond sword. To put said enchantments on. Well, that's good. I'll need this wood for that. And this one random stick, technically. And I need lapis, so let me grab some of that. This might be the most well-stocked I've gone into the Nether. Or not in the Nether, in the end. Assume I can find the goddamn portal. Does the Eye of Ender, since I have extra, I'd be sort of willing to burn one if it helps me track the specific portal room. Try going lower. Want to be a druid? I already said he'd probably be a bard because he plays music. I mean, I know they're all musicians, but... I mean, like, his specific thing is, like, he plays guitar. Well, that was... I'm a little worried the fortress is too destroyed. Like, it's missing the room. Okay, so that's... No. Is the fortress random? That's neat. That's neat. There it is. Okay. I recognize the... Not dying to silverfish. Oh, that scared me. Did not mean to place the boat. I don't want to die to fucking silverfish of all things. Okay. Goobers are some of the most devious designed enemies, I swear. Okay. Okay, let me block off a lot of things. Okay. Okay, now... Ow. Have you ever sit in the chair so long you start to hurt some? Okay. Let me get to work on... Okay, torch. Got a lot of stuff to start narrowing down. There's the crafting table. I'll carry that into the end with me, actually. But I'll work on that a bit. So, diamond sword. Increase our DPS a lot in this fight. I need, actually, oh. Boop, boop, boop. Boop. Okay. Alright. Alright, yeah, I do want to do enchantments, so I reluctantly have to make a pickaxe real quick so I can get the obsidian. I'll put the iron one away. Try not to. All right. I mean, I can do every preparation thing possible, and I can still goof it up on the final step. So we're real close. This is the preparation stage. Okay. Let me start once again moving some stuff around. So if we have water here, we can do brewing and just make it. Do brewing. Do this. Shit. Let me look up some recipes. Let me look up some potions real quick. Potion of strength. I might use my excess blaze powder. Generation, fire resistance, water breathing, night vision, invisibility, turtle master, slow falling. I don't have phantom membrane, breeze rods, cobweb weaving, oozing, infestation. Okay. I don't have glistening. I don't have melons. I don't have melons of any kind. So that's not going to be something on the table. But I do have excess blaze rods. I do have potions. So what I can do... is I can make a nether wart. And start working on cooking these items to break down my inventory some. Okay. Nether wart. And then it's another blaze powder. So that will give me strength. That will help me on the final stretch. Now we can finish working on the enchantment table. Alright, so that's done. We have potions. Okay. Strength. Let me double check. What increases their plus? Is there like easy redstone around, or do I just have glowstone? Let me see if I can find like redstone in my line of sight here. I don't think I can. I'm not gonna waste time on this when I have limited burner time. Oh, here it is. Okay, so what I'm gonna do. Lock this off. One of these is going to be duration. The other is going to be increased potency. And this is just kind of a bonus. In the meantime, start making a ton of books. Strength 2. And then close into. So this will give me a lot of strength. And then I'll use the other one towards the end when it's like make or break. Oh yeah, and I will refill my bucket. Don't worry. Shields low, I need another shield. At this point, we want all the wood we can get. Let me get one more obsidian. Okay. I think that's all the books I'll be able to make, so... Okay, we're not losing any major enchantment potency, because I'm not finding the library in this place. Let's start... Here, let's... Okay, let's start... knockback, knockout, unbreaking, sharpness 2. Knockback, I'll take it. Let's get a new bow. This bow's very old and worn out. Okay. Breaking. Here, let's get this out of rotation. Power. Okay, well, whatever. I guess I'll keep that as a spare. I don't really need a blaze rod now. No more gold helmet. Gold helmet's done. What enchantment can I get on my pickaxe? Efficiency 2? Yeah, take an efficiency, why not? There's no real reason to, but maybe the axe and breaking? Why not? There's no enchantments on the shield. I'll keep the old shield, though, just in case. I don't really have a use for the leather anymore. I have all the arrows I can possibly get. I guess I'll keep the old sword just in case. I'm not going to use the bed. I guess, and this is the boring part, this will slow down the stream a bit, but it's worth it to just get as many arrows as possible. Let me know if there's a faster way to get flint from gravel, by the way. Besides trading for it. Because trading's obviously like the ideal system, but I haven't really found a village that had that good opportunity. I need to remember I have a water bucket for defense, too, because Endermen can't approach me in water. Yeah, regenerate health. I have food. That's my main system. I wasn't able to find a gas tier or a glistening melon to make instant health or regeneration. So that's just going to be a limiting factor. Like I said, not much going to happen here. This is the grindy part. I mean, this is about as... I will end the stream after this run no matter what, because I'm not going to be able to top this run. Tonight, at least. This had everything going for it. Really. Still not quite enough. We have about half a stack worth of arrows, supplies. A little more than that now. Let's see, can I get any good enchantments? Honestly, for Endermen, protection might just be worth it on its own. Two. Sure. I'll trade out the boots. Respiration. Aqua Affinity might actually be worth it for the towering up. Feather Falling's a big one. That might genuinely save me. Alright. Base equipment down. I don't think I have enough gravel to warrant an iron pickaxe. Or iron stuff. Or an iron shovel, I should say. Okay. Let's trim down. Let's see. That's good, but I want, like, zero risk scenario, you know? I don't want to run out of arrows at any point. The scariest thing in this scenario is Enderman. Really. I mean, the dragon's random knock-up stuff, that's scary also. Don't get me wrong. I don't think gravel dropping on a torch yields flint. I feel like I remember that being a thing that's not a thing, if that makes sense. I think you have to hand mine it. Okay. Another 7. 4. Almost there. All right. Yeah, I know. Enderman killed the last run that made it to the Ender Dragon. We destroyed every crystal. We got it down to a little under, I think, I wouldn't call it quite a third health, but just a smidge under half, I want to say. And an Enderman killed me because my shield broke. And because I wasn't watching my shield earlier. That's why I made an entirely new shield, and I'm keeping my old one, too. Okay. In the interest of time and the fact that I don't think it's really worth it, I'm going to make my final bit of arrows. Okay. Bundle. Got blocks. Got strength, 8 minutes. I'll pop this around when... Don't need that. Iron I genuinely want to keep in case of emergencies. Craft table I also want to keep in case of emergencies. I think eggs might be a funny, like, gag item to start with. I think this is it. I think we are ready. Everything's enchanted. Oh, 100th day in Minecraft Hardcore. That sounds brutal. Alright, we're running it. I don't have anything left to really prepare. Just don't look at the Enderman. Okay. Keep looking down. Okay. So any of these low towers... Yeah, that's what I was hoping for. Okay, no. But I can do this one, I bet. No. Okay. Oh, that would have hit. Okay. Keep down, and watch Enderman. Or you have to look up. Okay. No, look down, down, down. Okay. This is high enough. Come on. Not getting as good of hits. going to ignore. Just going to ignore. Okay, run around. Yeah, attack your minions. Please do that. They scare me. They scare me almost more than you do. Though you are also very scary. Come on. I'm assuming it's based on, like, tick rates, right? For what counts as looking at an Enderman. Like, if I look at one for about a tick. Okay. I think I have to go up this one. I mean, it's a pretty clean boss fight so far. No, I'm not doing this that efficiently, but it's also a slightly safer. Let me make sure. Okay. Okay. Is that all of them? That is. Okay. Okay. Strength potion number 1. Perch. This is why we have feather falling. This is why we have feather falling. Alright, first third done. First third done. Just keep running our little laps. Keep your head down. You're not mad at me, you're mad at the dragon. Keep hunger up, that's part of what killed me in the Enderman encounter. I want to shoot at it some. But I'm afraid of the Enderman. Yeah, hit us falling. I know. I wasn't just. I was kind of panicking. I wasn't doing my timing right. Okay. No! I didn't think it could hit. I forgot you can't approach from the front. I just forgot how the fucking fight worked. I tried to back away. I made the mistake of turning. This is such a dumb way to lose. It's close. I think I can beat it tomorrow. I know. Uh, so don't approach from the front. Major lesson there. Um, I'll check what the next world looks like. If it's like a random mesa, I don't trust it enough. Um, it really depends on what this next world looks like. Because I planned on stopping there. I do think I should check just in case. Because if it's a world like that, where everything just kind of lines up, I can just run it, you know? Yeah, you have to go for the back, and I didn't think about that. Uh, is there like anything in this world? Under the neck stomach, yeah, I know. I realized that after the fact. Like, it's very obvious afterwards, but I wasn't thinking in the moment that I forgot the head has a hitbox. And it also can shoot fireballs there. No, this world's not. Hmm. I need like an easy cave along with a ton of mobs. Mm. Yeah. I wonder if I could have saved myself too if I just backed away without turning my head. Well, it is what it is. See everyone on the next stream.